Welcome back to Hacker Hangouts live on a Saturday morning. And we are consummate professionals who have topics and are ready to talk and don't come up with a thumbnail last minute. And now we're talking as a shameless excuse to talk together and hang out with you.
If we are consummate about anything, it is that we are inconsistent.
I do, by the way, for anyone who is watching the video, I am cracking up because the sun is in and out, in and out. So I go from being like super overexposed to it being like in a pale, dark room. And I care about these things. I don't know if anyone else does. So let's jump in. I know we have a handful of topics I want to talk about. One of them is that Carrie Byron Mythbusters was in our booth at DEF CON. That was really cool. We got to be interviewed for her new show coming out, or her feature coming out on quantum diode firewalls and other things.
The best, if I remember correctly, there will be some, like, it'll start getting cut maybe like November, December timeframe, and probably out sometime next year, and we'll get some forewarning and probably some warning about what clips they're going to use to make us look silly, which is going to be great.
Well, I'm guessing here's always my concern with it. I should say always my concern, but there was the NBC broadcast with Gator at DEF CON where he was talking about the darknet badge, where you plug it into a computer and it dumps out the exchange codes when you pair badges. And they clipped it. So it's like, oh, you just dump it in. It dumps all out the codes. And it's like, these malicious hackers in Vegas are dumping credit cards. Oh, you just plug it in and it dumps out all the codes. And they clipped it in such a horrible way. Oh, yeah.
I would not say a horrible way. I would say an absolutely amazing way. They basically clip from a guy showing how easy it is to do the flipper zero thing and like unlock somebody's car using a computer. And then they clip directly over to him and say like, oh yeah, you just plug in a USB and it dumps out all the codes. And it's totally out of context and it seems so silly, but it's like, and then I think they got banned from DEF CON at a later time, right? Because they were being surreptitious about filming.
Yeah, they had like the person without the press badge going around interviewing people, like going like, so what illegal things are you doing? Like, oh, goodness. So I'm very curious how because they interviewed us for what, a half an hour or plus, and then they'll probably use like 2 minutes of it, if that.
It was longer than that. I think we had like a 45-minute discussion with her. And like, to her credit, she's super curious. She just really wanted to know a lot about DEF CON in the beginning. I feel like we spent 25 minutes just talking about the culture.
And then you had the producer say like, get back to firewalls. And all we want to do is geek out about DEF CON. Like, firewalls. Yeah. Gotta get that back in there.
I look forward to this. I know they're going to use this. She asked the question at one point. She's like, so how do we stop hacking? And and Silk and I just took a moment. We looked at each other. We were like, well, we don't want to do that. What are you talking about? And then Silk's like, well, we want to stop nefarious hacking. And I'm like, I don't want to stop nefarious hacking. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah. Or you take the CrowdStrike stance and just embrace it and push nefarious hacking, and you make action figures and sell those action figures. I want to talk about this one, which is CrowdStrike sells action figures for threat groups or APT groups overseas. And they take these ones in like, what was it, the Spider, whatever the one was called. Yeah. But they sell these action figures as like a promo for their tool. And I can't help but think like somehow in our industry, this is okay, or in cybersecurity, but this is equivalent to like making like, it's not like, oh, I'm making, because like these things exist, like serial killer action figures from like the olden days. This is like active current day present serial killer where you're boosting up their notoriety.
Yeah, this is like making a Jeffrey Dahmer action figure, but like while prosecuting him,
Yes.
Like, yeah, exactly.
And how is it okay? Like, but then again, CrowdStrike doesn't care. They took out like practically the entire world, and yet they're still fine.
Except that, yeah, they still have jobs somehow.
We're going to just let that go. It's fine. They weren't hacked. It was just a feature bug they were pushing out. But there was that. I think the other piece I wanted to talk about, gosh, I didn't talk about DEF CON forever. But when we were talking with her, I got into 2 conversations at DEF CON. And one of them was on the OMG cable, with which MG created, sold by Hack5. And I got to hear some of the history of this thing. And again, it's documented, it's online. But there was this whole like controversy that Kevin Mitnick came out with the Ninja cable before the OMG cable was out there, when MG kind of showed a prototype online of one kind of broken apart. And then it was like 2 years went by where nothing, I want to say nothing happened. I think he was actively developing it. And then Kevin goes, okay, well, if he's not going to create it, I'm going to create it. And it had this whole thought of like ideas. Like there's so many times within, we'll say that the hacking culture within new technology or things like that, where you come up with this idea and then you put it out into the world. And sometimes you put it out into the world and you go, maybe I might make this thing. Maybe I might not make this thing. But then every once in a while, someone grabs that idea and runs with it because they were more passionate about you than it. And then you're looking at everyone going, oh, that was my idea. Like I have that idea. So you have this whole dichotomy that exists of, are ideas cheap? Do you want it? Are you allowed to put your name to them? At what point is it okay? Because that's like one of those weird ones within hacker culture. It's like, I want this. Oh, that was mine. I was the original of that. I was the one who wrote that Metasploit module.
I mean, you can look at some level of open source licensing for inspiration here. And, a lot of open source licensing requires attribution. So like if somebody writes a contribution and puts a copyright on, like you own the copyright and then you submit it upstream and you're giving the project a license to continue using that code. And part of the license says you have to retain attribution. So you're basically saying like you have to retain the fact that these people worked on this, and different licenses have different rules around that. So like at later times, some licenses allow you to go through and scrub names, and other licenses, it would be strictly against the license of the person who submitted the patch under the license. Right. And so I think if you ask 20 different people, you will have 20 different answers as to whether or not ideas deserve attribution in that way. And also I think like, unless you actively, this is my opinion, I think unless you actively go push forward the idea, and this is where I'll say like, I have problems with some software patents for this reason. I think a lot of software patents, not all, a lot of software patents are bullshit because no one ever goes and executes them. They draw up the design and then they get the design patented and then they use it to troll people, right? But if you've never actually executed the idea in any real form, like it doesn't have to be fully working, but you have to have actually attempted to do the thing. Again, my opinion, not any opinion of any companies. But unless you actually go and do that, I feel like, no, the idea is not worth that. I don't think I don't think the idea itself is valuable unless there's execution behind it. There's some attempt to execute it, right?
Yeah, it is interesting because I think about the early days. Gosh, I just had my birthday and now I'm talking about the olden days. This is in my mind now. But I think about when I was on IRC as a kid, it was really fun because like it did age, sex, none of that mattered, gender, whatever. If you were, DT said it best during the interview. If you were a jerk on the keyboard, then people would call you a jerk. Like it didn't matter who you were. And now you have faces and names and egos and all of that in it. But I remember back then thinking about like, I had a train of thought. I completely lost it, but it was when talking online, throwing out ideas. There was like the idea thrown out of like bug bounty program, and I'm like, oh, this would be really cool because someone needs to get paid for this. And I had this idea of like, oh, I could publish, and I created a website, and servant security is what it was called. And it was like people would come to bugs, and it just didn't scale right because I had to go for like most of the companies didn't have money, so I would then be sitting there going like, okay, I'm gonna like, hey, can you guys pay us for this? And they're like, no, but we can send you free product. And I'm like, great, free product doesn't make a business. And as a kid, it didn't really matter. Yeah. So that idea was put out there, and then someone comes along and does it bigger and better and things like that. I think there's a lot of these stories that it's always built on the shoulders of someone else, and that's how we better these products.
Yeah, and I do think there is, like, I think it depends on the context. So, like, I'll bet if you go look around the time that you were doing that as well, there were probably people that wanted to do the same thing. And, there's 8 billion people on this earth. It's really, really, really hard to come up with an actual, like, creative thought that hasn't been thought before in some way. You're usually, like you said, standing on the shoulders of giants and cobbling together a bunch of synthesizing new ideas, quote unquote, from a bunch of old ones. Nothing new under the sun. I think you always quote a book
Austin.
called "Steal Like an Artist," right? And I think there is some value, and like where you cross the line into this person stole my idea is probably around the point, like if you draw up a design and then someone goes and executes that exact design, which I guess I'm describing a patent now, like you should at least attribute the idea back. But if the person never went and executed, could you make the argument that, yeah, they had the idea, but they didn't actually do anything with it? I can see that being the line, right? And this is why this is why in academia, citing your sources is so important, right? It's all about, where did you get your ideas from? Because to a certain extent, we know that you had, like, you're not making up how computers work. You had to go learn it from somewhere. So cite your sources and at least give them attribution. So, and the idea is that, like, that will pay forward. So someone will eventually attribute their work to yours, and we can build that nest of knowledge that way.
There's two directions we could go in this conversation. Is one of them is, as you're talking, you're saying when you come up with a new idea, it's a synthesis of a bunch of different knowledge and connections in your brain to come up with something original. So at a certain point, I asked the question, how is this going to play into copyright for LLMs? Because isn't that exactly what it does?
This is playing out right now. And, like, I don't want to get too far into the legal weeds, but, like, what constitutes fair use in the space of LLMs right now is totally, like, fair game. This is specific in the U.S. So talking about U.S. law, like European law and like Japanese law and all these things, they have like Japanese copyright law and trademark law, wildly different than United States. So just take that into account here. Mostly talking from the perspective of U.S. copyright and trademark law. What constitutes fair use in the LLM space is currently making its way through the courts, and who the hell knows how it's actually ultimately going to land. I just saw Anthropic, I think, just agreed to a deal to pay, I think it was like $3,000 per book. It was like $1.5 billion that they're having to pay. I might be misquoting, but I just saw that this morning. It was just a headline, so I haven't read into it, but they just agreed to do that, I think, to just deal with the court case. And you're right. Like, how does it translate? And I honestly think, obviously, I think those authors should get paid.
Yeah, but that would be like, again, then if you came up with an example, J.R.R. Tolkien, kind of like the father of fantasy, you can look back and say he inspired so many other stories off of that. At what point is it a difference between the human brain doing it and an LLM doing it? You're still doing all the same research you would typically do. You're still Googling, looking at resources, things like that. Is it just the fact that it's easier? And
it's also, you can take it one step further. People are like, oh, then we'll just ask the LLM to cite its resources. And you're like, no. You're asking the LLM to cite random stuff that it thinks is the most likely to have attributed to it. Like, that's not how the LLMs work.
So that's one issue. We can keep talking about this one. The other one is I was interested in, so we got to sit down with Darren at Hack 5, and it was a really interesting comment he made, which was he had to keep Hacker Pager, as that's been going through, really under wraps. And he's had to do this with almost every product of his, because the moment he broadcasts it, immediately it's copied by China and sold. Like, immediately.
Yep.
So it's amazing to me that this was like the first time, by the way, when he didn't, not Kickstarter, but pre-orders. Like, he broadcasted it out, but he was like, he's fully done with the product at this point. And that was like, so he's like ahead of the game, but like, that's another weird one of like, if you put the idea out, that that you now have like almost this, I don't know, like this is the dichotomy I'm worried about, is every time you put an idea out, and this was like the joy of hacker culture, was like, I'm going to put this idea out, I want to share this discovery, I want to share this curiosity, I'm not going to worry about where it goes, I want to share this thing. And now this piece of it, well, if I put it out there, someone can it feels like it could be stolen, run away from it.
Well, and it's not even just the idea at that point. I don't know if you watch the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day, but he was trying to make like he wanted to make a product fully in the United States, and like sourcing every piece of that product from the United States. Couldn't do it. And then he also wanted to be able to do various things. And when he went out and talked to people that were trying to make electronics and make some of the things that he was trying to do, he's making like a grill brush that didn't use wires. He uses chainmail. And what he discovered in talking to other folks that were, specifically around like computer chips and stuff like that, even if you have the idea and you are executing it, and it is part of what you're trying to keep it in-house for as long as possible, oftentimes the factories to make these things, no matter what it is, they don't exist in your local community. So at the end of the day, you're having to send your designs off. And if you're sending it into, not to beat up on China, but if you send it to China, it's like the same factory that makes all the knockoffs. And so somebody at the factory sees your plans, and then within a week of your stuff shipping on Amazon, the same shit ends up on Amazon from, a drop shipper in China. And so, not only now you have to ask the question, are ideas valuable? Is the execution even valuable if there's no protection against it? And I can totally understand having to be super secretive about something like Hacker Pager. And you have to, how much of the design of Hacker Pager, and this is a little bit of ignorance on my side, how much of the design of Hacker Pager is quote unquote, like truly creative versus putting together a bunch of things they wanted to work on specifically, and how much of the creativity is in the software, let me put it that way, versus the hardware, right?
For that one specifically, I would say it's both. And mainly because you see the form factor, there's injection molding,
Right.
He built like all the interface is completely customizable with just a JSON file. So like it's that. I mean, the other piece of this though, like I look at like what the Flipper did. The Flipper wasn't anything new. It wasn't anything more clever than hardware. There was RFID cloners. There was the bus pirate. There was all these things which does it. It just put it all in one. So there's nothing new on that, but that went off and took off. And then there's been a million knockoffs of that one.
And our joke with that is when Congress started talking about trying to ban it, we were like, okay, cool. Are you going to ban like a laptop? Because it's the same shit. Like it's the same sensors. It's the same. It's just, yeah. Like you can't, you functionally can't unless you are willing to break the industry as a whole.
Excuse me. I mean, this probably falls into music pretty heavily too. Of at what point is it yours? At what point is it someone else's? Like this, I guess this goes under fair use and things like that, because Vanilla Ice and Under Pressure sound remarkably similar because they are.
So yeah, this is just Silk's way of enticing me to talk about the fact that I have an album I've been working on for a while.
Yes, it is.
And I've been joking because I have 9 songs on this album, and some of them are like old folk songs, like Wild Rover, that I just rewrote. They're not. It's obviously I have rewritten an existing song, and I've added some flavor to it that is specific to the topic that I'm talking about. Other ones, fully like I wrote the song. But when I say I wrote the song, what I mean is I cobbled together a set of chords on my acoustic guitar, and I set the lyrics. And then I went to a buddy of mine who's a music producer, and I said, I want to turn these ridiculous songs about Magic the Gathering and the market around Magic the Gathering into an album, and I want to spin it. I was like, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to do it as just an acoustic album. And I had a theme, and I don't want to spoil the release yet. So I had a theme around it where every song was going to be different. and I was like, I don't know how to do this. And his name's Neil. He is so fucking talented to the extent that, I go, oh, they're my songs. But if I go listen to the album, I can't play my own fucking songs. Like you listen to these songs, he sounds amazing. And I can't play half of the songs on this album that I wrote, quote unquote wrote. So it's like, is it my album? Is it our album? Is it like, if I talk to him, he'll be like, this is your album. But I'm like, well, hold on. Like, you spent an inordinate amount of time. And obviously, like, I paid him for his time. No one's doing free work. I don't believe in free work. But like, how does ownership work in that sense? And this is something for me that is a new feeling, because I'm like, I don't know that I'm comfortable calling these my songs anymore, because there's so much creativity that's been pumped in by him. And I'm like, this isn't my song anymore. It's grown beyond that. And it's interesting.
It's interesting going like, is it, I mean, I would immediately say it's yours. Part of this feels like just imposter syndrome where you're projecting going, it's not my album, but it totally is. But
yeah, but as a musician, like, if I can't play my own songs, is it mine?
Well, this is another weird one where you start hearing like some of these fiction writers and things like that use a ghostwriter for the last book. Like all of a sudden, George R.R. Martin, you're like, hey, you're never going to finish those 2 books, and he just pays someone to go create it. Are they still his books?
Well, the way actually Tom Clancy was famous for this, and then that kind of, like, people have been doing this for a really long time. You'll have the quote unquote the main writer who puts the idea together and writes I think you would call it like the Bible book, like the overview of how it's going to go. And then they just pay another writer to actually flesh out the story. And that's why you'll see like Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six with blah writer. It's really the other writer. And then like Tom Clancy wrote the outline. And then that's their way of like getting new people published, spinning up new authors and things like that. But like, is it really Tom Clancy's, or is it like the writer? You know what I mean?
This in lies the problem. Like, I don't know. Like, there's a lot to be talked about. Especially, I was laughing at Gator's comment. Like, are you going to ban the ESP32? Which, no, because everything has one.
You have to give it a scarier name if you want to ban it.
That is true. That is remarkably true. All right, where are we jumping to next?
Well, yeah, I guess like the attribution piece and open source licensing. I guess in the music industry, that's why you have the inserts that say like who played what, right? And obviously, hopefully, everyone on that list got paid or got what they deserve. But is it right for me to say this is my album? I don't know. Is it? What do you think?
I would say yes, but I also am an entrepreneur and saying you paid for it. It is yours.
Yeah, that sits uncomfortably with me. But yeah, so where did we start
on
this?
But I'm the third party here. If I was in your shoes, I'd be saying the exact same thing.
But you're not objective, so I'm going to push back on that and say you're biased. I do think it was really funny going back to the Carrie interview. We got asked a bunch of questions that we did not know the answers to, and as I said,
weren't prepared for.
Not prepared for. Like, we got asked a question where I was completely stumped, and the only thing I could come up with to prevent myself from sounding completely stupid was, I am not a domain expert in that area. What do you think, Silk? We got asked about, was it quantum diode firewalls? And I'm like, you're going to have to explain this to me. Like, what are these things?
Well, there was a couple times where she mentioned something like that. And afterwards, I'm like, oh, that would have been a better response, which was like, I don't know, but I'm looking forward to hacking them in the future. Because there's a lot of things like, what is the best defense we can do for a quantum diode firewall, like routing inbound traffic or whatever it was. And it was like, okay, there's no standards for them right now. Most of the standards haven't been defined yet. And I went down that path where really it's like, it's just, will they be unhackable? How do we stop hacking? There's that one right there. But then it's like, given enough time, money, or resources, anything can be broken into. It doesn't matter what it is.
I also I also kind of wonder, like, I've been watching more physics YouTube recently, and I forget the woman's YouTube channel, but she has this great talk about if you go look, like, quantum is ending up everywhere. So she's like, oh, because the quantum. The title of the video, I think, is actually quantum. And like, what the hell does quantum actually mean? And quantum is the idea that, like, a quantum is the minimum amount of energy that can be exchanged in an interaction. That's what, like, quantum physics is based on. That, like, that was the breakthrough that broke open, how do I quantize energy in this sense? Like, that's what quantum means. And I'm speaking as a neophyte in this area,
cyber quantum.
right? So what the hell is a quantum firewall? Like, is it the minimum amount of firewall that can be exchanged? Like, what does that mean, right? Or does it just mean that it's like light based, or does it, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
This is not on Carrie. It's just kind of like, I always kind of laugh at the jargon nonsense that people come up and you're like, well, what makes it a quantum firewall? Exactly. Tell me exactly what makes this a quantum firewall.
Because it's really good branding.
Yeah. I mean,
it's usually what it comes down to. Usually it's really good branding.
Firewall. I want a quantum firewall that prevents all this nonsense jargon from entering my meat space.
A cyber quantum firewall. That's what you need.
Is it cyber quantum or quantum cyber?
Cyber quantum cyber.
Yeah, okay, fair.
As long as you throw it in you put it on both sides. Bookmark it.
I feel like I'm reading LinkedIn right now. Have you ever done that? Have you ever just gone and looked through posts on LinkedIn? It's insufferable.
No, like this is what kills me. I don't have social media. I have a Twitter account, an X account that I use once a year around DEF CON. I want some social media to use. I want to use it. I know there's Mastodon, which I know someone like Gator's like getting uncomfortable because I'm like, Mastodon is terrible. It's really, really bad. It's like, I've tried it, but I wasn't even a big fan of like Twitter in the day. I want a social media. I have this vision of like what it should be, but LinkedIn, I can assure you, is not. It's like the professional ego stroking. Everyone's stroking each other's egos on the thing. And it is the most gross thing I have ever seen. Like, I have one because I need to have one, but I don't think I've ever I think the last post I did on it was probably like the urinal cake video, because it goes back to the Mohawk.
That there too, yeah.
It goes back to the Mohawk. So like, for years, I wanted a Mohawk at DEF CON, Mohawk Con, all of that. I wanted to give my donation to EFF. I could
have
never.
A bit of a problem.
Well, no, I know this is the problem. This is what I'm talking about. Is I could not have a Mohawk because I was either at some giant enterprise. I was doing like a talk for enterprise. I was doing government contracting. I then was in a small consulting company where if you're in a small consulting company, you're effectively getting pimped out. So like, you have to look nice when you're strutting your stuff. You have to look the part. So I finally get to the point where it's my company. Like, I can do whatever I want. It's my company. Like, I can look like a hacker. It's good. And then I have no hair to do it with. And this is...
Well, hold on. You can have a reverse mohawk. You could just do the right down the front of your chin.
It's actually growing out to get the most epic comb over ever. Yeah, put Donald Trump to shame just to get the whole thing up and around.
That I would pay you so much money to do that.
But that's go on.
I've just had a wonderful idea, completely unattributable to anyone anywhere in the world. Let's start a DEF CON competition called Buzzword Bingo. And no one in the world has definitely made this comment anywhere in chat.
Meanwhile,
Ader came in and said Buzzword Bingo, next generation. I'm like, actually, that would be kind of fun.
There is a lot of actually, this is kind of a fun. I want to talk about this. At DEF CON, there's a zillion contests, and we've sort of seen this weird shift where it's like, it's all cryptography, it's all CTFs, and they all feel like a whole lot of the same thing. Not in a mean way, because everyone kind of like, I like fantasy books. Like I like fiction. I like high fantasy. I like those things. I like Brandon Sanderson and all that. And like you kind of find the formula that you like, and then you want to go find other things after you've read that one. So contests at DEF CON work like that. I like this one. I can go and find a lot of other similar ones. But there's a few standouts, like Scav Hunt. There's nothing like it whatsoever, except the community Scav Hunt that totally started this year, apparently.
Which Scav Hunt?
Oh, gosh.
It was the social Scav Hunt, just to be clear.
Evil Mofo's like, I'm expecting him to like come through the door. Like, what are you talking about?
There's a lot of unease about this, and a lot of the drama is just like they allowed it to be called Scav Hunt. And like, if you go look around the conferences, there are clearly multiple scavenger hunts being run. There's really only one Scav Hunt, right?
But that's the standout content. Like there's nothing like it. Where I looked back at the history of some of the contests, and there was a few other standouts. Like one of them was like early days of DEF CON. There was Coffee Wars, where it was who could make the best cup of coffee, and there's nothing like it. So I'm
like, I was gonna say the other thing that I think still, I don't know if it ran this year, but that is run almost every year was the beer cooling competition, the cooling contraption competition. There's nothing else like that at DEF CON.
Yeah, I don't know if that one happened this year. I think it has to. It's gone every year. But then there was a few other ones like Team Fortress. That wasn't there this year. I think they're coming back though. No, they come every single year. This was like the first year they haven't been there. I wanted to reach out to the team because they're just it's an incredible team. It's one of my favorite contests there. And they weren't there this year, but they released a teaser after, I think it was during conference or right near the end. I didn't even get to watch the full thing. And I'm pretty sure it's not going to be called Team Fortress, I don't think, because they're not doing TF2. They're doing Quake or Unreal Tournament. They're doing Unreal Tournament, I think.
Well, now I'm less excited.
It may have been Quake. I don't know which one. Because those ones looked, in the early days of it, those looked pretty similar. Like between...
I always really wanted... here's an idea, right, for anyone who wants to play this. And I don't know how executable this is with QEMU or any other emulator. I'm pretty sure actually game emulators, you could probably do this with a console emulator of some kind. We wanted to modify Doom to run in one of our replay emulators and network a bunch of these emulators together with the ability of the BFG, not shooting stuff, but you could have like 1 or 2 rounds of the BFG allow you to rewind the entire match by like 10 or 15 seconds and continue. So like if you die, like if you're about to die and you get the shot off, you can just rewind. And everyone gets like 1 or 2 of these. Like how would it actually play out? And there's a bigger idea there, but we never got around to actually doing it. I think it could be a really fun competition though. We just have a time travel gun. It'd be great.
Yeah, I don't think you would
monetize. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Unreal Tournament. By the way, it wasn't Quake because Quake was the BFG, right? Yeah, it was. No, Unreal.
Doom is the one that has.
Doom. Doom is BFG. The one it has to be Unreal because it was the one with the female announcer, which it's a little uncomfortable watching. Like you would have your audio going and it'd be like, double kill, and you're like, okay, like bring it down, like. Turn down that volume. My parents are like gonna be like weirded out by this one. It's that one, whatever that one is. I think it was the early day Unreal Tournament, but I think they're gonna re-release the contest with Unreal Tournament, and that would be an absolute blast.
Getting an update, or I guess like you're going retro. It's not even an update, right?
Well, I think the key for them is I think Team Fortress 2 they kind of like started supporting it again and putting out new patches and whatnot. So in order for the game to work, they had to run their own server. I think they started hitting a problem. And again, I'm not positive on this, but I think they started hitting a problem where they couldn't update the server because it was no longer open source. So they couldn't, you had to get these hooks into the server to be able to say, okay, I want to give everyone critical hits. I want to make people invulnerable. I want to box them out. I don't know what the technical details of why they flipped on over. Or who knows? Maybe they were just like, okay, this has run its course. We've been doing this for years. Because they originally did Hacker Halo, which part of me just go back to Halo. Hey, I'm happy with Halo forever. Let's just do that. But
I think that'd be great. Yeah, old school Halo, Xbox Connect style LAN party. Let's do it.
but I think I'm looking forward to see if there's any other contests which should jump out over the next few years, because I think with so many contests, I think we're starting to see, we're not seeing some of those the weirdo standouts.
Well, let me throw this out there because I've been thinking about this a little bit. Like, I think I've lost some of the quote unquote wonder of DEF CON, and I think it's mostly on me. Because I can walk around DEF CON now and take a couple of minutes to like look at a booth and understand what they're trying to do, and just kind of dissect the whole idea in my brain and go, okay, I understand how this works. I understand how I would approach it. And all of a sudden, boom, like the wonder is gone. Is like, I wonder if 10 years ago, like we were all about, oh, this competition is so new and exciting. This one is so new and exciting. This one is so new and exciting. I wonder if 10 years ago there was somebody like me walking around going, there's nothing new under the sun. Like, this has been done before. You know what I mean? And I wonder if it's less, that there is new creative things happening and more that just like you have a new influx of people doing new things that are new to them, but that are not new to everyone. And we're just becoming the curmudgeons, the old fogies that are like, okay, I understand how that works, but not for me.
I could see some of this. Like, I will say for me, and this is going to sound like it's not a judgmental thing. For me, DEF CON, I'm sure you're the same. DEF CON is always magic. It doesn't matter what it is. Like, in this realm of experience, we'll say, you have this 0 to 100. DEF CON will always, for me, be in that top 90%. I don't care. Even a bad DEF CON is still in that A rating. So it's now just variation. So when I'm saying like, oh, it wasn't as fun of a year or whatever, like we're talking about like you know what I mean? Like, it's still an A rating.
We're still talking about on the edges of Like, let me put it this way. Like, I'm saying, oh, I'm an old curmudgeon, and this is how I feel about the conference. But as soon as we leave the conference, we're like, well, what did we learn this year, and what are we going to change for next year?
Exactly.
Right? Like, it's never like what we were joking about last week, where it's just like, oh, DEF CON's not the same, blah 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 blah, and it's like, well, cool, see you next year.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I think we're both on the same page on that one. I think as far as like walking through the contests, I think for me, you have this realm, and we hit this a little bit last week. You have this realm of a really good technical contest, a really good story, and it is very visual. And I think that's where there is very few contests which hit that middle ground. Darknet that was the thing that attracted me originally to it, because you had Skyria Insanity doing an epic story for it every year. Yeah. You had the technical crew creating really good challenges, but then you had like the badge and the art making it very visual.
But we also briefly touched on this last week. That was like a 30-person team, dude. Like,
I know.
Yeah, that was a company.
It was essentially. Yeah, absolutely. I'm saying there's very few contests. Like Scav Hunt hits that middle ground. Snacky hits that middle ground. It hits the.
Snacky is so cool.
I mean, again, it's the vending machine, so it's very visual. I've never played it, but I know one of my employees, he played it, and he said this was awesome. But it hits the challenges in the story and the journey, we'll say. But I think the wonder for me comes from seeing the contest which hit all three of those. And I think as I walk through this year, they're still there. It's just, I think and part of me goes, I think it's hard to have a lot of, I don't know. You talk about it a little bit, which is, do you lose it over time? For me, I think that's where I got every year. I get to the end of conference every year. We've been doing this for 5 years now. And every year I get to the end and I go, shoot, like I should have done this. I should have done video this way. And every year we get better at it. Like we learned a ton last year. But that feeling of, oh crap, like I should have done it this way comes from right at the end of the con, I see the wonder somewhere over there, and that's what I want to go and capture.
Yeah, and I mean it's a hard problem because when we started video there, we said we wanted to capture kind of the soul of the conference, which you can't really see through pictures, and you only really get to experience through other people's stories, right? We were like, oh, there was this contest here, there was the trading cards and blah blah and all these things, but then sometimes you walk up and you see shenanigans happening, and you just like you have a moment to capture it, and if you're not there in that moment, you miss it, right? And it's hard to know it's there and know where it is to capture it, right? Unless you're walking around and actively engaging.
Well, in the video, I would say, like, of all the videos we took, there's only one that I think hits that soul of the conference. For me, the other people, other videos hit them differently and all of that. But it's the one which hasn't been released yet because I still need to actually shoot some footage for it, which is you had, why am I? It's Nikita's. I want to say Nikita's team. I don't know if it's actually her team. It's the team doing Scav Hunt, and it's oh goodness. I'm gonna look at the name because it's gonna drive me nuts. Right here. It was Libius? I don't know who. I'm trying to remember who all was on that crew, but it was Scav Hunt. They needed to do the imminent domain of an empty booth. And here, the story was like, hey, they were excited. They were like, this is what we want to do. And this is why it captures the soul of DEF CON, where it's like, they were so excited. And we're like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to pack up all of Silk's Roadhouse. We're going to go over to Scav Hunt, and we're going to do this. So the whole video is this journey of us doing this. And there's like whole chunks of the video, which I wish we would have recorded. Like the fact that we had this whole planning phase.
Yeah. We had like 10 people with us, and we were like, here is what we are doing. Here is how you will execute it. And none of us thought to turn a camera on.
I know. So it's like,
and we had it with a freaking video team.
I know. And it's like, it was stuff like that where it's like, wait, I need other people to help shoot video with some of this. But that was the piece. Like we did that and we went off and then we did it. And the cherry on top of the entire story wasn't recorded because we didn't know about it till afterwards. So we do this whole thing. We move all the crap on over to Scav Hunt. We shoot an episode. Careless Whisper comes on. Dual D starts dancing. This whole thing happens. The entire thing. We're all high-fiving. We're great. And we start walking away. And you know what they didn't get? Any points. Because Imminent Domain had to be on an empty booth. And no one said anything about this.
Well, we had a discussion with Dual D afterwards. He's like, you can't get eminent domain because it says eminent domain on an empty booth. And my response was, I don't see any hackers here. And he's like, well, you get points. He's like, now you get points for gaslighting a judge into giving you points.
This is where it's again, when talking to Dual D, you can tell it's Scav Hunt to the core. And man, I know it won't happen. I wouldn't want it to happen because I wouldn't want anyone else to run it. But seeing their crew play Scav Hunt would be a sight to be seen. Because all of a sudden it's like, here is the one item which we can satiate these 15 other items with. Here's what we're going to go off and do.
We're going to start our own Scav Hunt that only Scav Hunt can play. And they have to get all of their submissions filmed. I don't think they would do it.
Oh goodness! Like it
I
is.
Like what Dual D said. Dual D says at least something would happen, right? Like, and that's
at least something would happen. So that's the thing. I don't know. Maybe we start Coffee Wars. Maybe when we shoot that off. But next year, it's definitely like, I don't know. Every year,
I have a plan for next year. I've already purchased some hardware that I'm futzing with, and we'll see if it gets there. We had some pretty good ideas, and I think recruited a new hacker into the fold. We're working on something fun.
Yeah, I think there's another cool too. Is there's another videographer who's going to be coming in too. So and they do more like vloggy style. So there might be an opportunity where it's like, okay, video crew plays Scav Hunt or something.
And I have tacitly been working on hacker songs in the background. Although, like, I've always been curious. I've always wanted to bring music to the conference in some way, in a way that, like, the conference brings musicians every year, but most of them are DJs. and a lot of it is electronic music, and they throw raves. The conferences, I'm not going to say the conferences outgrown raves, because that's not true. But I think there's room for more variety, but I don't see the space for it yet. You know what I mean?
Chill Out Lounge,
Like,
that second floor one.
I
where
guess
pirate
the
party
chill
was.
out a lounge, but like, I think of it. All right, I'll put it this way: there are guitarists out there that legitimately solder their own guitar pedals, and like they hack together their own guitar. Those people are hackers. How fucking great would it be to have a booth for those people, and then have a space where they can sit down, bring in their guitar pedals, and play for people and show it off?
I'd argue here that that exists. It was right next to Scav Hunt. It was what DEF CON Bandcamp, which was 3D printers creating music.
Yeah.
But like, part of me is like, this is all of these are great ideas.
How do you
go do them?
Right.
This coming
the
full circle to the idea. Hold on, here it comes. Coming full circle is ideas are cheap. Where's the execution? So who's executing it?
That's a good question, and I think maybe I'll ask Linus Torvalds, who apparently Linux Linus, he apparently solders. He uses guitar pedal kits from a particular company, solders them together, and then gives them to his friends or kernel developers that actually play the guitar, because he doesn't. He just does the kits because he likes to do the hardware hacking piece.
So that's the piece. I think it is. It's talk is cheap. I think we can, but at the same time, it's like some of these ideas are too good just to die in the wire or to die in the vine. So
maybe
you have to mentor people.
I think I want to have a conversation with the guitar pedal hardware hacker folks now and see if we can bring something like that up. Like I want to expand it outside of just guitars, but maybe that's where we just start.
I mean, at any point, I think anyone can submit a contest or a talk or a village or community. I'm not really sure what the difference between communities and villages are.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to look into that a little bit.
Ooh, what's going on with the video?
It seems fine to me.
Oh, okay. Then it's just frozen on my end. I am looking at a frozen screen.
All right.
Fantastic.
Well, I think we're at the end anyway.
Let's go ahead and I will unplug and replug, and maybe that will get fixed. And I think it will.
As we started. Full circle. Consummate professionals.
Consummate professionals. There we go.
Communities are smaller incubators for the villages from a community goon. Interesting. All right. That sort of makes sense.
That's great to know. All right. With that, do you have any closing thoughts?
No.
Well, with that, then.
My thoughts are empty.
As always, thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us on the Saturday morning. And as always, hack on!